President, I come to the floor today, someone who is back in my home state every weekend. And as I talk to people and say, what's on your mind? They say what's on their mind are jobs, the economy, the nation's debt, and the nation's spending. I say, what do you think about things going on in Washington? And they say, you know, the problem with Washington is it taxes too much, borrows too much, and the government grows bigger every day. And they say, what are we going to do about it? When we talk about the debt, the people of Wyoming have a clear understanding that the number is very, very large. And they say, well, what about the budget? And as we get into the discussion, it comes down to what budget? Where is the budget? It's been 800 days since a budget's gone through this body. Over 800 days. You know, you're talking more than 2 years. Why is that? I think there was a vote on a budget earlier this year that was the president's so-called budget, lost 97-0. Not even one Democrat voted for what the president had proposed. The magazine, the news magazine, The Economist, called it a dishonest budget. You know, in Wyoming, we balance our budget every year. We don't have a debt like the country has, the country with its $14 trillion debt. Wyoming, the debt is zero, because year after year we balance our budget, live within our means, spend only what comes in, and actually have money left over that we can invest in the people of our state. And it's because from the beginning, when the Constitution of our state was written, included right there in the Constitution is a component that says that you shall balance the budget every year. Don't spend more than we have coming in. So to do that, one of the most useful things is that there actually be a budget. Be a budget. Something to live within, something to look to as a guidepost, as a roadmap. I'm still looking for one in this body, Madam President, saying, where is it? Why haven't we seen one? And so that's why I'm coming to the floor today with a number of my colleagues to say, what is going on that it's been over 800 days, no budget, no opportunity to have the American people look to a roadmap to see where the country is headed. We hear all the discussion about the fact that, are we headed to a default? What about the debt limit? What about the ceiling? Is that going to be raised? The people say, what's the plan? What's the spending plan? What's the savings plan? I don't hear one coming forth from the majority party. I don't see one from the majority leader. I don't see one from the Budget Committee. I don't see one from the President. So I come today to the floor, Madam President, with a number of my colleagues. Senator Sessions, the senator from Alabama, has arrived. And I know that we're going to be engaged in a colloquy and to discuss some of these issues. But I'll tell you, we ought to be focusing on these 9.2% of Americans who can't find work, but are millions and millions of Americans looking for jobs. And when I talk to the job creators, they're saying it's the president's position and his policies that have made matters worse. Made matters worse with increasing health care costs as a result of the health care law. Made matters worse as a result of the regulations coming out of Washington that add additional costs onto businesses, and making it worse in increased energy costs as the president continues to send energy jobs overseas as he makes it harder and harder to explore for American energy. If you don't have a budget to begin with, I can't understand how you can balance it, and so is it any surprise that we are $14 trillion in debt and we're borrowing $4 billion a day, $2 million a minute in this country, and we're borrowing a lot of it from China. And it would just seem that we ought to be following the law, having a budget, and then living within the budget, and it needs to be a responsible budget consistent with what's coming in.
What would you say about the Senate's failure to even attempt to present a budget?
Well, the House has approved a budget. They presented a budget, debated a budget, discussed a budget, and passed a budget. Nothing in the Senate for over 800 days. And, you know, people at home tell me on the weekends, they say, you got to stop spending money we don't have. Stop spending money we don't have. They say, we expect better. We expect better of those who are elected to go to Washington and represent us. We expect better. No, and you know, the thing they also believe is that of the money that they're spending, that they're sending to Washington, it's their money. It's not Washington's money, it's their money. The money that they're sending to Washington, people don't believe they're getting value for their dollar. If you said of every dollar you send in, about how much value you're getting back, it's at an all-time low. It's less than 50 cents on the dollar. People think they're getting value. You know, people want efficient government, effective government. That's not what they're finding today. They're seeing amazing amounts of waste and fraud and abuse. But fundamentally, they're not seeing a budget, a roadmap for which to make a plan and then live within that. And that's why I come to the Senate floor with my colleague today from Alabama to say the law is specific, not just in the state of Wyoming, but also in the United States, that we need to have a budget.
Well, the law is specific and the need is there whether we had a law or not. The law doesn't require families to have budgets, but families that are smartly managing their money have budgets.
I see no reason fundamentally why there isn't a budget proposed by the majority party here on the floor for all of the country to take a look at, all of the country to say, yeah, change this, more here, less there, reprioritize, and let the country work.
If the senator would yield, unless you're unwilling to tell the American people where you stand, unwilling to put real numbers on paper. You prefer to say, well, American people, don't worry about it. We're meeting in secret over here. Don't worry about it. We've got the vice president. He called some senators together. He's going to fix it. Oh, now the president's meeting in secret. Here he stomped out of the meeting yesterday when some questions were asked. But so we're going to take care of it. You guys that serve on committees and the finance committee where taxes have to be voted on, should be voted on. You guys are no longer relevant. The system's broken. Don't worry about it. We're going to take care of it. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. They're saying we're not going to go along with this. And it's not because it won't work. It's because the budget presented, the only budget we've seen here, was presented by the president. It increased taxes substantially. It increased spending even more than that. And it increased the debt more than if we'd done nothing over the 10 years.